Well, hello, fellow Patriots, and welcome back to the Patriot Dad channel, where we can discuss current events and modern issues, all while keeping it as real as possible. Today, we're going to be going over a little bit of information about an NSA data center facility that was constructed in Utah back in 2014, as well as their future expansion plans, what they may or may not be collecting that may or may not affect you, and a little bit of a discussion about the Fourth Amendment and what your thoughts might be on it. The NSA built a data center back in 2014 at Camp Williams in Utah. And if you look here, according to this Milcon report that we have, the completion date for this data center was 31 May of 2014. It is 100% complete. And the fully authorized amount for the project was just over $1.5 billion. This Bumblehive facility, once completed, will be almost 1 million square feet of space, with approximately 100,000 square feet dedicated to servers alone. As an apparent Class 3 data center facility, it should, by looking at the site map, have N+1 redundancy for all systems. That includes the power, the chillers, the cooling towers, water storage, fuel storage, and everything else. Seeing as how a typical server rack takes up between 7 and 8 square feet of floor space, but those can be a little bit larger depending on the rack design that they're utilizing, because of course the rack design they're using at this facility is classified. It's probably like TS, SCI with poly, it's fully classified. They're not going to tell us what the rack designs are, and that's fine. It was reported by National Geographic, however, that the facility was utilizing 1.5 million gallons of water and 1.65 gigawatt hours of electricity per day. So this server footprint is capable of a great deal of storage and compute. Just taking a semi-educated guess based on the water and power numbers, as well as the square footage, I'm guessing that this facility has somewhere between 6,000 and 8,000 server racks in it. So this amount of high performance compute, or HPC, being wielded for data collection and aggregation is impressive and terrifying at the same time. The Utah Data Storage Facility for the U.S. intelligence community is designed to store data on the exabyte and higher scales. Now we can see here that an exabyte is just 1,024 petabytes. A petabyte is not a very large amount. A petabyte is easily done within one server rack. 1,000 petabytes being an exabyte, that makes a little bit more sense. But it also seems a little on the low side for the sheer amount and type of information that this facility was designed to collect. The exabytes are a lot, but the NSA's Utah Data Center will be able to handle and process 5 zettabytes of data. Now you can see here a zettabyte is 1,024 exabytes. So that's a massive amount of information, equivalent to 30 billion 4K movies. That just is almost an unfathomable number at that point. Now, the facility was predicted to process and handle 5 zettabytes of data, but this was according to William Binney, a former NSA technical director that turned whistleblower. Binney's calculation is an estimate. An NSA spokeswoman said that the actual data capacity of the center is classified. As I said before, they're never going to tell us. Binney asserted that 5 zettabytes of data would be able to store on the order of 100 years worth of worldwide global communications, phones, and emails. So there are suspicions that the data center has the capability to process all forms of communications, including a complete list of private emails, cell phone calls, internet searches, as well as all types of personal data trails, parking receipts, travel itineraries, bookstore purchases, and other digital pocket litter. This is also from Mr. Binney. The data center has one of, if not the largest data storage capacities of any facility in the world. There are also rumors that the NSA was constructing a second, albeit a little bit smaller, data storage facility in Fort Meade in Maryland. Why does the NSA need to be able to store so much data? What could they possibly be collecting? Well, the US government has been involved in several domestic surveillance programs over the years. These programs have been controversial, with some of us arguing that they infringe on Americans' civil liberties. There are 4 types of information being collected. You have phone metadata, you have internet activities, social media activities, and financial transactions. Now, for phone metadata, this refers to the practice of collecting and analyzing metadata from phone calls. Metadata is information such as the numbers involved in the phone call on both sides, the duration of the phone call, and the time of the call, but not necessarily the content of the phone call. It may also include geotagging information to locate the person making and receiving the phone calls. Now, this program was first exposed in 2013 by Edward Snowden, who leaked documents revealing that the NSA was collecting telephone metadata in bulk. Since then, metadata collection has been a topic of debate, with some privacy advocates, myself would be among those, arguing that the metadata should receive the same legal protections as the actual communication content. Some of the metadata is actually just as valuable or more valuable than the content of the call itself. In 2015, Congress passed a law ending the bulk collection of metadata. Sure they did. However, the NSA and Federal Bureau of Investigation can still obtain telephone metadata on individual suspects via the U.S. Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court system that was created by the FISA program. The USA Freedom Act, which sounds great, but it's probably awful, prohibits the government from using Section 215 for bulk metadata collection, instead imposing a narrow set of rules for metadata collection known as Call Detailed Records Program. The collection of metadata can reveal sensitive information such as health services or lifestyle choices with very little digging. If you know that the person is calling a treatment center for HIV on a regular basis, one can assume that person has HIV. If they're calling a drug and alcohol rehab center, you can probably assume they have a drug and alcohol problem. See, this kind of information is actually quite useful and dangerous to have in the hands of government. It's important to note, though, that the collection can have legitimate purposes, or at least what they will say are legitimate purposes, such as tracking down criminals and terrorists, but it also raises concerns about privacy and civil liberties. We'll get to that in a minute. The internet activity, they've been known to collect information such as people's email and web browsing history. Under social media, they'll collect people's posts, comments, and messages. Their financial transactions could include credit card purchases and bank transfers. Do you really want the government tracking everything you do financially? I mean, the banks already do, and they report most of it to the government already, but do you really want them to have all of the information? The Fourth Amendment does protect citizens from unreasonable searches and seizures by government. Some folks call the prevention of terrorism a reasonable excuse for these seizures. But does the collection of all domestic data for the future hope that it might prevent a terror incident seem reasonable to you? Because it really doesn't seem very reasonable to me. Mostly because I know what you could do with all of that data and information in it. This type and amount of information could be weaponized easily if whoever is searching these vast databases decides to target a specific group or person. Now, there's an old quote that those who give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. This quote's often attributed to Benjamin Franklin. There's some evidence it was from somebody earlier, but does that really matter? I mean, who cares who said it? The sentiment is what matters. I don't think we should be enabling the collection of domestic data inside the borders of the United States to this magnitude. Even with the masking restrictions and other safeguards that is put on domestic data, it's still all being collected. The information is living in a database somewhere, and with this amount of high-performance compute, attributing that data to a person and then weaponizing it in the future would be trivial. As the rack refresh cycles of these data centers increase the compute density, which has happened at least twice looking at the time frame since this facility was opened, because rack life cycles are typically about 3 to 5 years, these facilities will only be able to store and compute more. All of this data will be used for something. Otherwise, why are we collecting and storing it? It's such a high cost. They're obviously planning on using it for something. Minority Report, here we come. Because as they gain more power and more ability to collect more data, as we use smartphones, home assistants, drive electric cars, use social media, as we do all of these things, we're just leaving a larger and larger digital footprint in society. And data centers like this are designed to hoover up as much of it as they can. I'm glad this didn't exist when I was growing up, but it does now, and my kids will have to grow up with it. I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. So thank you to those of you that made it to the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, please make sure you give it a thumbs up and leave a comment below. If you want to see more videos like this, where we do little tiny deep dives into different topics, please subscribe to the channel and hit the little bell icon so that you can be notified when I upload additional content like this. Please share the video with friends and family to help them be better informed, and feel free to leave a comment if you have a recommendation for a future topic. I hope everyone has a wonderful week. Take care of yourselves. God bless, and bye for now. Go ahead and check out one of the links on the screen now to either subscribe to the channel and see the rest of the videos of the channel, or one of the carefully selected videos that you may wish to see that YouTube has used its algorithm to select for you.